Assalamu alaikum. Firstly, thank you so much for Kaleem for arranging for me to come here and speak. It's a very new environment for me, something that I've never done before in terms of speaking in a masjid, in a mosque before, so really excited because I do believe that this is going to be the start of hopefully a movement, and by that I mean an opportunity for more people with different disabilities, with different challenges, different impairments for me to spearhead a platform for them to be able to connect with the local community. And inshallah today I'll be speaking a lot about some of the different challenges kind of in my life that have allowed me to kind of get me to where I am today in terms of all the skills, all the people, all the support I've needed to be able to achieve what everybody else does, but just in a slightly different way. To start off with, we're going to start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and inshallah I hope you'll get a lot from this talk. I do know a little bit of Urdu, so I know there's already, I've met a few people as I was walking in, वो कह रहे थे कि English में या उर्दू में, मैंने कहा था मेरी तो उर्दू थोड़ी सी टूटी फूटी है, but as I will explain in English, मैं try तो करूँगा कि थोड़ी सी उर्दू के भी मैं explanation for those that may not understand English as well. So a little bit about my journey. So like I said, Azeem, 25. I was born in Rochdale as well. I was born with something called a visual impairment. So some people call it visually impaired, some people call it partially sighted, sight impaired, blind, but Padeshi is it. So since birth I was born with my condition. It basically means I've got no sight in my right eye, so zero, no sight in my right eye, and something called light perception in my left. So I can pick up on lights, shapes and shadows from about an arm's distance. So if anything is near or anything is in front of my face and it's like a shadow, like a silhouette, so I can make it out. But apart from that, I really struggle with detail. So instead of using my eyes all my life, I've had to adapt to be able to do what everybody else does, but just in a slightly different way with a heavier reliance on my listening, on my ears. That has allowed me to be able to get around, work, study, do a job, do everything that I do now, but just in a slightly different way. And growing up, I went through mainstream school, so just like everybody else, but I was that one person in class that would have a vision impairment or a challenge or a disability, and I would have someone that would sit next to me and they would help me to be able to read what was on the board. So she'd speak telling me what was on the board. She taught me how to use braille, so with my fingers to be able to read. Taught me how to use a cane, so the stick that would help me to be able to get around, and my mobility, do all these things that everybody else does, but again just in a slightly different way. But sport was a big part of my life. I loved playing sport, but again, like try to make karta tha ke jo sare kar rahe, can I do as much as them? But there was always a little bit that I knew I'd never be able to do what everybody else does, because I had that challenge, that barrier. Everybody else could see and I couldn't. But alhamdulillah, the school were very good. School were very supportive in trying different things and giving me as many opportunities as possible, getting creative. So when I was doing the climbing wall, they would have a walkie-talkie, and so they'd say, Azeem, left hand over here, put your right foot over here, so that I'd be able to access that. They tried to even adapt badminton. So we'll get to take it, inside the shuttlecock, we'll put loads of lights, little lights. We'll dim the lights, and then hopefully you'll be able to see the light move. Try to kiya tha, but I wasn't very good. But there's also, my favorite one is they tried to adapt rugby. So they got a fluorescent rugby ball, a fluorescent green rugby ball, and they said, hopefully the light will shine and you'll be able to see the colour of the ball. And that was great for the first 5 minutes, but then after that it would get muddy and I wouldn't be able to see it anymore. So there was all these different adaptations that they would try, but there was one sport that changed my life, and that was the sport of blind football. So blind football, the first thing you hear is blind people playing football. Right, it's going to be a car crash, kisi ko nahi pata na, where is everything, or no one's going to know where the ball is, no one's going to know where they're shooting, no one's going to know, how do they even get around? A blind person you know, we see someone with a disability, or we see someone with an impairment just leaving the house, and we're impressed. Wow, inspiration! Like, you know, he's able to go down the street on his own. Like, let alone play football. That's impossible. And growing up, that was my mindset, that, you know, I'd never be able to play competitively until I heard about blind football. So blind football is played by 5 players, 4 outfield players. So the 4 outfield players have some form of eye condition or impairment. So they'll wear a blindfold, or, you know, a putty, so like something that would ensure that they can't see anything at all. And so it's fully reliant on your listening skills. The goalkeeper is fully sighted, and the ball is special because it makes a rattle sound, so it makes a noise. So that's how we were able to locate it. And we put on a special pitch which has boards going down the side, and the boards help because obviously we can't see the lines, so the boards help for the ball to stay in play. And most importantly, one of our coaches will stand behind the goal that we're shooting towards, and they will speak. So they will say, go left, go right, shoot towards my voice, and that's how we're able to know where the goal is. And alhamdulillah, I came into the sport, I was still studying, so went to school, I went to college, I went to Rochdale Sixth Form College, so very local, Matthew Moss High School, so very local. And alhamdulillah, football was getting better and better and better, and I started playing for a team out in Liverpool. I started to again get better and better and better, and then I got approached by some coaches who put me on a program for a couple of years. As I went into university, I went to the University of Salford to study business and sports management, and around this time I got a phone call after 2 or 3 years of training at a high level to say, Azeem, we would like you to come and represent England for the first time in Japan in 2019, and an amazing experience in terms of how many South Asian people, how many Muslims play football at a high level. Very few, let alone represent England at an international level. So I was, it was an amazing opportunity for me to get, and I took it. I went out to Japan to sing the national anthem, to wear the England badge, to have my name and number on the back, and to play at the highest level possible. Something that we see, Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, these players playing on our TVs at a high level. For me to play on the same playing field, but representing disability football was an amazing experience, and changed my life. 100% changed my life. And since then, I've played for England 28 times in countries across the world, from Japan, Argentina, Brazil, 85-90% of Europe. Next month we're going to America. So alhamdulillah, like I said, blind football changed my life. It's allowed me to travel. It's allowed me to do it as a job, to get paid to play football. How many few people can say that they get to do that. So incredible, and like I said, a big part of my life, and to be able to interact with other people with other disabilities who are achieving. They don't say hum dekh nahi sakte, we're just going to sit at home and kuch nahi karna. Like they're also very, the mindset is I mean, jo sare kar rahe, we're going to do as much as them, if not more. So that's a massive to being around that environment was great. And as I started to do well on the pitch, off the pitch, opportunities would come. So it was brands saying, they asked me the question, Azeem, what is it that you want to change or make a difference with off the pitch? So it got me thinking, what do I want to have an impact on, or what do I want to change? We'll get to take it, football, very good, but off the pitch, the platform happening off the pitch got impact on a society. So I had a really good think about this, and for me, it was to change. I really want to change the way people think about someone with a disability. So my idea was to change karoge jo people society ki soch hai ki what a disabled person can actually achieve is very low. It's very minimal. It's very. I feel sorry for them. I'll speak about that in a second. But I wanted to try and change that to make a difference. I wasn't too sure how. Whether it be through talks, or whether it be through speaking to people, or whether it be through workshops, but I knew I needed to do something. And again, came up with an idea that we're going to change that, but doing a really practical way. And I founded an organisation. So I started my own business. It's called Learn with ESS, and it was all about how we can change the way society thinks about someone with a disability. So that was a big thing. And it doesn't matter if they can't see, if they can't hear, if they can't talk, if they can't walk. What we were going to try and do is change what people think about that person, because I experienced it myself a lot. So belly cheese people, they if I was out or if I was, train station or airport or going, town, and let's say I had a stick or a cane, so that would help me to help me. I know this was happening. That the belly cheese people, they looked at the stick, then they looked at you. So they don't even look at you first. The first thing they see is a stick. Let's say you are struggle with your hearing, so you're deaf. Belly cheese people, they the hearing aid. They don't look at the person, they look at the hearing aid. You're in a wheelchair. Belly cheese people, the first thing they see is a wheelchair. Then they see that person next. And sometimes they don't even see that person who's in the wheelchair. They see the person that's with them, that's helping them. And I experienced it myself, where it was like, they would ask the person with me a question, is he okay? Or can I do anything for that person? And the person next to me would say, ask him. He's got a voice, he can speak, but society thinks that that person, they must really, really struggle. They must have a very low quality of life, or they can't do even the bare minimum of being able to speak for themselves, being able to advocate for themselves. It's not that I can't see. I can still speak. Whilst I'm in I can still speak, but society would look at the person next to me. Or same with someone who can't walk. But my voice does. But that person, that society would automatically go to that person that was with them. So again, I wanted to change that. And also a big part of me. And again, when I explain this within a non-South Asian culture or non-Muslim culture or not within a community, we call it the pity culture. So the pity culture. But here today, I'm going to call it the Bajara culture. So that's a really big thing. So when I say what does the word Bajara, what was the word Bajara would mean when people hear that first word? And the first word they think is, I feel sorry for that person, or he's a Bajara. He must have a low quality of life. He must really, really struggle. Or मुझे तो नहीं पता है अगर if I ever lost my sight, I don't know what I would do. My life would be over. But actually, we see that person and we feel, like I said, pity, sorrow. That person must have a really low quality of life. But actually, I went, I live a great life. I can't see I live a better life than 99% of fully sighted people. जो देख भी सकते हैं, my life is better than them. 100%. 100%. And, as I will explain, I get paid to play football. I'm educated with a master's. I travel around the world. I've seen so many countries. I run a business, I run a charity. I've met some amazing people. I go on some pretty fancy holidays. Like, all this stuff. But someone would see me in a train station and would think, oh, Bajara. Little do they know I'm about to get on a 12-hour flight in business class to go to play in Brazil to get paid to play football. Their mind is so small. So it was about that. So we came up with the idea of delivering some workshops. In the workshop, the idea was to help people to do it in a really practical way. The idea that was in my mind was people might not necessarily remember what you say and what they hear, but they will remember how you make them feel. And that was my mindset. So we came up with this idea of these workshops where to really explain what life is like for someone with a challenge, we use a blindfold to replicate life for someone who can't see. We use ear defenders to replicate life for someone who can't hear. We use wheelchairs to replicate life for someone who can't walk. And the idea was that hopefully, if you feel it, then hopefully that will stick with you. And my idea is to leave them with an experience that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. And alhamdulillah, after 2.5 years now, we've worked with over 22,000 people from across the country, 250 schools, colleges, universities. We worked with some of the biggest brands like Nike, Santander, Boss, Dior. We've also been very, very fortunate to have delivered on some really big like UK campaigns on different projects. We're now just going into the world of life for your people, day-to-day people in cafes, restaurants, eateries, hotels, even to train prison staff and prisoners, so that their mindset is different towards what they perceive someone with a disability can actually achieve. And I use disability a lot, but instead of the word disability, I want to use the word challenge. And why I use the word challenge is because challenges come in people's lives in lots and lots of different ways. I was born with my challenge, with my disability. people acquire disabilities through illness, through age, through injury, both different things. But you know, there's some people that have to deal with a challenge in their life that's not disability. So it could be bereavement, so death of a loved one or a loss. Could be illness, it could be financial challenges, family challenges, monetary challenges, all these different challenges in lots and lots of different ways. But the same way we overcome a challenge is all the same. It's all about mindset. It's all about having a good set of people around you. It's all about being able to put things into perspective. It's all about gratitude. It's all about all these different things to think of. And alhamdulillah, like, you know, people would say to me, like, oh, I feel sorry for that person. But like, one, you've got to remember this, like, you know, people say that it's from God, it's from Allah. Like, I can't change that. It's something that, you know, I'm not gonna do something, click my fingers, and tomorrow fully be able to see that. I that's not gonna happen for me. But it's that acceptance that, you know, God put me in this position, but it could have been so much worse. I'm lucky, you know. I'm lucky. I can do everything. I just need कोई बताए कि step कबारा, or कोई बताए कि what's on the menu, or कोई बताए कि, you know, watch out, don't walk into that. Like, just that's it. Apart from that, I'm able to do everything and more. But you know, God could have put me in a position where, you know, I'm in a third world country. I haven't got food. I haven't got water. You know, I could have been in Syria, Gaza. I could have been born there. I was just born in my position. But again, society would look at me and think, oh, Bajara. Like, but I'm not a Bajara, and we need to try and change that mindset, in particular within the South Asian culture and the South Asian communities. Because, you know, I've had conversations myself, okay, you know, some people get thinking disabled people, you know, Asian, Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi, you know, children with a disability, well, but they've not seen them because there's still a stigma that people feel like, is it a punishment that my child or my family member was born with a disability? So on this society, they're still there. They don't even leave the house because of the fear of what other people will think. And like, that can't, we need to change that, because, you know, it's that acceptance that, you know, my parents, my family could have done that with me. They could have said, you know, we shadow him, you know, we're not going to show him to anybody, because, you know, people ne kya sochna hai, people ne kya think karna hai. But actually, they pushed me out. They said, Jo Sara ne karna hai, Azeem, you're going to do that as well. Like, no matter what, you're going to do that. You're going to find a way around it. Like, if we're going kayaking, you're going to go kayaking. If we're going skiing, Azeem, you're going skiing. If you're going go-karting, Azeem, you're going go-karting. You know, this summer I've been scuba diving, surfing, like, all these amazing things. But my parents could have said, you know, Azeem, no, it's too risky, you can't see. And also, it could have been, you know, actually, you know, it's that mindset that they said, actually, no, I'm going to make sure that you can do what everybody else does, but just in a slightly way. So we need to make sure that we try and change that, and to be, you know, proud of our young people. And that leads me to my next point about when society, you know, a person could be 99% perfect, but society would look at their 1% that they're not, and they would focus on that. You know, a big thing right now, going through, like, you know, people with the, like, you know, finding a life partner, or the Rishta process, like, people would look at that 99% that someone can do. That's what people should look at. But instead, it's that 1%. You know, that person may struggle with their sight, or, you know, they might struggle with their hearing a little bit. They might struggle with being able to talk. They might struggle with the invisible disability. You know, you know, things that we can't see. But there's so many challenges, you know, autism, there's ADHD, learning impairments, learning challenges, mental health conditions. You know, they're still within that society, especially within the South Asian culture, the acceptance that doesn't happen, but it's there, it happens. We need to, jitna, you know, I get support, then people should get support with learning impairments and learning challenges, if not more. You know, my brain is, okay, I say, I just need visual help, I don't need learning help. But for some people, they still need learning help, and again, we need to change that culture, that shift around them invisible disabilities within the South Asian culture as well, because that's a massive thing for me. Like, going back to my original point about focusing on people that focus on the 99% of, instead of focus on 99% of good, they'll focus on that one, you know, that one nux, that one thing that person can't do. And I've met with people and spoke with people that are so scared and ashamed and, you know, uncomfortable that they don't even disclose that they have a disability. They don't even disclose it because of what, you know, society will think. The minute someone's reading something and they see hearing impaired, or that person, you know, Sanai say they can't Sanai, or they can't talk, or they might struggle, or they might struggle to walk, or even a little thing, that's it. No, it's not right. It's not good enough. Not even entertaining a conversation. So we need to change that. That's a really big thing, because ye baat, we need to remember this, and gratitude. You know, ye baat is very important to remember that we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You know, kal ko kisi ko nahi, we don't know anyone. No one knows tomorrow. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. And you might have everything, you might be completely perfect, but tomorrow something happens, again, in God's control, that changes everything. And you might be in that person's position or worse. So it's very important, like I said, that we come into conversations like this with a very open mind. And that leads me onto my next point around open-mindedness within the Muslim community when it comes to masjids and mosques. So again, you may think about, some people get caught up in their own lives and their own experiences, you know. Okay, I'm just thinking about myself, because I can only speak about my story. I can only speak about my story of life, you know, without kind of say, I can't speak about someone. Okay, I don't know how it feels for someone who can't walk, or someone who can't talk, or someone who can't hear. But when and for Muslims in particular, for people from South Asian background, access to a masjid. So this week, I had to ring Kaleem to ask him, Kaleem, would it be okay if I've got colleagues and friends that are coming in a wheelchair, that will they be able to come to your mosque? वो आपके मस्जिद के अंदर आ सकेंगे? I had to ring him to ask him that question. That's not right, because masjid should be for everyone. Doesn't matter what your background, it doesn't matter what your challenge. Masjid should be for everyone. But I had to ring him to ask, Kaleem, have you got a ramp? Or Kaleem, have you got a facility? Will your mosque mind if my friends come to listen to my talk or come to your masjid, but because they're in a wheelchair and because they've told me previously that mosques have not let them in, because they have this stigma, they have this mindset around that wheelchair might be dirty. How dirty is that wheelchair going to be? Kaleem, the first thing he said, doesn't matter, we'll wipe it afterwards, we'll hoover it afterwards, it don't matter. But that's the younger generation. And Kaleem never told you this. I've known Kaleem for 7 years now, for 7 years. We went to college together, we still stayed connected. I still joke sometimes जब हम मिलते हैं मैं कहता हूँ कलीम आज मैं आऊँगा मेरी गाड़ी में pick up करने के लिए. He said please don't. Whatever you do, I'll pick you up. It's okay. But we have that relationship where it's very humorous, it's banter, we don't take life seriously, and that's very important for me, that I have good people in my life like that who can bring me back down, and it's just normal. We normalize it. You know, it's not a big issue. It's just that just need to make sure that you tell me if there's a step. You know, but step here, that's it. Everything else is normal conversation, normal friendship. But I thought I had to ring him to ask him for if it's okay to have access to the mosque, to the masjid. You know, that for me it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. And again, in particular with the elder generation, in particular, it's that change within, you know, whether it be the societies or whether it be the collaboration, the networks within the higher powers, within the masjid committees, and it's about opening their minds. They should be here today listening to this talk, but very few will be. But it's that thing around, you know, if we can empower them and we give them, and some places are amazing. I'm not here to say, you know, everybody's wrong or not right. You know, some places are amazing, and some places है कि उनके पास उन्होंने सोचा है कि, you know, and there's no point having this conversation once the masjid is built or 10 years down the line. You know, we need to have these conversations when mosques are being built. And again, society is getting better. It is getting better, but there's still big things that, you know, अगर मैं अभी भी, you know, I want to go for a coffee with someone in a wheelchair, for example, I'll recommend a place. I'll say, you know, हम आज यहाँ जाएंगे, and he'll say, हम कहीं और जा सकते हैं. I'm like, why? The coffee's not that bad. It's all right. The prices aren't that bad, I promise you. but because there's one step, and you can't get in. It should not be like that. It should not be like that. So we need to make a big change around, again, them, when people are thinking of building these masjids and building these buildings, and it doesn't matter if it's a cafe, it doesn't matter if it's a restaurant, it doesn't matter if it's a hotel, and again, ties into why I want to do the work that I want to do, is because we want to make society accessible for everyone. We have this mantra of changing how society offers a helping hand. Thinking about choti cheezein that you can do that will make big impact on others. And it doesn't matter if they've got a disability, it doesn't matter if they're elderly, it doesn't matter if they've got a language barrier. What's that small little time that you might take a little bit extra time, or you might take a little bit, which means a big thing. And going to my own journey in terms of my own relationship with being a Muslim and in Islam, I'm not perfect. I'll sit here and say that with chest, that everybody's on their own journey and I'm not perfect. And especially within football, within England, it's a very white sport. It's a Gora sport. It's a very, it's not. You don't see many brown people, Muslims, South Asians at football games. Muslim players, Muslim coaches, or South Asian coaches, South Asian players. It's very minimal. So for me, when I first came into the England squad, it was a very new environment. It was a very slightly uncomfortable environment. Okay, being a Muslim is a big part of my life, but I still didn't know how to express that. I didn't know how to have the conversation to say, I need to pray, or Ramadan, or fasting, or these slight things or these differences, alcohol and food, halal food. I didn't know how to have these conversations, so I would just go with it. In terms of, I just stay quiet. I'd eat vegetarian food. When I would pray, I'd pray around training times. But then there was one player that came into my team. It was Kieran. He was called Kieran, and he was a white person. He was Christian. He was Gora, and his journey really changed my perception. So he was fully sighted. So Pataishi said full sight. He could see everything. Normal life like everybody else. At the age of 5, he gets ill, and he has penicillin. And unfortunately, he has an allergic reaction to penicillin. And it meant that he got blisters, and the blisters were across his body, and in particular affected his eyes. And over a short period of time, due to the reaction, he lost his sight. So he wasn't born with his disability, he acquired it after a couple of years. And obviously life goes on, and he went through mainstream school, and then there's a specialist college for the blind in a place called Hereford, and he went there, he attended there. And that was to help him to be able to learn technology about what you use when you can't see, how to get around that, and how to do this, or how to use a cane, how to shop, how to do your shopping, how to cook. All the college educates you, but it also helps you to understand all these life skills that before you wouldn't have needed, but now you need that. You need that reliance on touch, you need that reliance on hearing, you need that reliance on technology because you can't see. And he was around a lot of Muslims, he was around a lot of the South Asian community, and he was struggling with his acceptance of why did it happen to me? And obviously as a non-Muslim, there's no kind of, you don't have that, that blanket to know that, everything is from Allah or everything is from God. You don't have that. You question why, science or this. But when he went to the college, he met a lot of different people from Muslim background, from South Asian background that, they accepted, the acceptance was better for them. So he said, why is the acceptance better for them and not for me? And alhamdulillah, he went on a journey, and after a couple of years, he converted to Islam. So he converted to Islam. So when you look at this person, you look at him, he's white, he's got tattoos, Kieran from down south, and I met him for the first time, and and he came into football. We were rooming together. I was rooming with him, And I didn't know he was Muslim. I didn't know at this time that, he was a revert. I didn't know that. And as I met him, he said salam. And I just thought, oh, that's a bit different. I wasn't expecting that. Usne Assalamu alaikum kiya, a white person saying Assalamu alaikum. I was a bit, taken back. I was a bit surprised. Then we're rooming together and we're talking, and I get to understand his journey and what he's gone through, everything that I just said to you guys. And then he just gets up and goes to the bathroom. He then comes back and he starts praying. And I was like, he just went quiet. And I could tell he was praying. I was a bit surprised and taken back that, when you coming away, and he said, yeah, and sitting with him and him talking about, him helping, guiding me to say, how important the 5 prayers are, how important Salah is, how important religion is in your life. To hear his story really made a big impact on mine. And he says, before we talk about acceptance, why did this happen to me, or this and that, but actually to hear his story around when he became a Muslim, about how it helped him to accept the position that he's in, how it helped him to accept that, it was all Allah's doing. There's a bigger plan, and there's all these things, was really, really helpful for me as well, because I thought if that's his life, and it matters so much to him, then I need to bring these habits into my life. And alhamdulillah, it makes a big difference now for me to know on camp, to make sure that we request training around prayer times, that we observe Ramadan, that we put all these adaptations into place. And like I said, it's great to have people like that in your life. But we were having a conversation on Baat Kar Rahe The, and again, something that I spoke about before, about the Rishta process, about the finding a life partner process. And he says, Azeem, if you think it's hard for you, what do you think about what it's like for me, as a revert and someone that can't see? And it really got me thinking again about perception within our societies, within our cultures, that we need to be more open-minded. We should be crediting that guy. That guy is an amazing, amazing human being. But again, these challenges that what people see and their perception, we need to change that. We really need to make a big difference towards that. And just in general, I think gratitude is a massive thing. Okay, man, I always think about this example, and sometimes, you start thinking, like life is hard, or this and this and this. But there's always one example that I always remember, and it helps me to ground myself. Okay, ye baat hai ke right now koi baitha hoga and they will have food in front of them. Let's say they're having their lunch and they've got a spoon, and let's say they're having a bowl of soup, or unke aage soup hai, and they've got their hand and they've got their spoon in their hand. For them, the biggest challenge in their life is to pick the spoon from here to here. That's their biggest challenge. For them, that is like climbing a mountain. That's their dream. That's their goal in life. कि एक दिन होएगा कि मैं spoon यहाँ से pick up करूँगा और यहाँ से यहाँ put it in her mouth. For us, we don't even think twice about that. For just normal. So again, the little things in our lives that we're grateful for, we never think about that. And I think once you start thinking, instead of what you haven't got, jo hum ke paas hai, that's really, really important as well. Not looking at what you haven't got, looking at what you have got. And inshallah, I think with more conversations like this, and me, this is I said to you at the start, ye pehla time hai ke I believe, main saying to Kaleem ke I believe that someone in the UK has come to a masjid with a disability to speak on all these topics, because we don't speak about it, because but people even say, अगर कोई देख नहीं सकता बच्चा, छोटा सा बच्चा पूछेगा कि ये ऐसे, why is he like that, ये क्यों उनके पास wheelchair का, why is he got wheelchair, और ये देख क्यों नहीं सकता, और ये बोल क्यों नहीं सकता, और ये उसके पास ये चीज़ क्या है, और the parents will say no, quiet, don't, shh. But actually, instead the parents should say, understand that everybody's different. Doesn't matter skin color, hair color, languages, all these different things, abilities, disabilities. You know, we need to start having more open conversations, because you never know when, because you're going to be when something like that will come into your life. So my hope is that things like this, if I could start, and again, I was a bit nervous, I was a bit reluctant, you know, it was a new environment for me, but inshallah, if I can do it, I can give other people the platform to be able to speak around other concepts. And as a Muslim community, we should help these people, we should support these people, we should be at the front of the line to say, what can we do? We should be, that's how it should be. But instead, the minds are so small, the minds are so inwards looking that we don't think about that. We think of it as, you know, there's always this one example, okay? The sound that someone makes, you know, you can't see, you know, but the first question they'll ask, Badaishi there, and then they'll make this sound. It's like, as if, what can we do? What can you do? It's a blessing. It's a true blessing. I genuinely believe that. And hopefully, like I said, if we can change that mindset and have conversations like this, it will make a really big difference, and it will really, really help within these communities, and to make these little changes. And something that I was very, I'd say I was ashamed of this. But it was truth. It was the truth. That white people, Gore, non-Muslims, were the ones that helped me to get to where I am today. 100%. My teachers, my coaches, my doctors, my support network were all non-Muslims. They were all non-Muslims that got me to where I am today. And then 3 years back, I started thinking, you know, why isn't there more Muslims helping Muslims? Like, there should be more. There should be, you know, our culture, written in the Quran, it says, you know, helping people and supporting people. But it was non-Muslims that helped me. So that's when I decided, you know, maybe not for me, but for the next Muslim, for the next South Asian person, for the next Pakistani person, for the next person with a disability, I need to make sure that I'm helping them. Or I need to make sure that my communities are helping them too, so that they don't say that the Muslims and my own community didn't help me. Because that was my situation. Granted, there will be people within that who definitely did. It's not for everybody, but there was a vast majority that just didn't. And that's an honest conversation. But now I want to make sure that we can help and support others. That's very, very important. And there's people in our communities that are able to do, that are doing amazing things. There really, really are. Charities, organizations, people, individuals, groups. You know, they see, they know that they don't look at what a person can't do, they look at what a person can do. And that's really, really important. I know I've spoken for a while, so, you know, firstly, thank you so much for the opportunity to come here to speak. You know, it's great that, you know, the younger generation, you know, through, like I said, Colleen, to have this idea. I know the masjid does amazing things, Duke of Edinburgh, you know, all these open iftars, different things for the community. You know, I know this is, you know, I'm proud to be here today, 100%, I'm proud to be here today. But let's not make this a one-off, once every couple of years someone you know, we'll have this conversation. Let's try and keep it at the forefront of everyone's minds. Let's try and keep it fresh, and inshallah, like, it will make a big difference, and we can make that change within our own community. Then we can hopefully make that wider in society. So yeah, thank you so much. We've got some time for some questions. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you wanna take the lead on that?
So inshallah, we'll open this up to any questions. Does anyone have any questions for Azeem? Yeah.
This one was first. Assalamu alaikum. Azeem, Jazakallah khair, thank you for coming. Very, very inspirational talk, alhamdulillah. May Allah reward you. It's just a brief question. I know, alhamdulillah, you've traveled the world. Amazing, alhamdulillah. Have you seen any difference in terms of stigma towards people with, I won't say disabilities, but challenges, like I said, from one country to another, and differences in terms of good and bad, or all bad. And then also, have you taken on some of the good that you've seen in some of the other countries and tried to implement them here?
Firstly, thank you so much for your question. And you know that word change from disability to challenges just shows to me that hopefully it resonated, and it's already had that impact. So thank you so much for even changing that word. In terms of some of the countries that I've travelled, again a plethora of different parts of the world, from, like I said, South America to Europe to South Asia. I visited Pakistan in 2019. I think it ultimately, regardless of the infrastructure, regardless of the financial state, regardless of the culture, it comes down to people. 100%. It comes down to people. It comes down to people welcoming you in them open arms to say, what can we do? What can we do to make your lives a little bit easier? And whether that be to, ensure that, the path is clear, or whether that's to ensure that, there's braille, or whether that's to ensure that, on a wider concept, that places are, have got disabled toilets, or whether it's to ensure that, people have taken into consideration all abilities and challenges, have had them conversations. That's one thing I've learned, that even regardless of language, honestly, like, the amount of, I'm like a professional Google translator now, and Google interpreter, because of how many different parts of the world I've visited. But again, that people say, is there anything I can do to make your life a little bit easier? And it does, it really does make a massive difference. And if we can instill that empathy and that little bit of groundedness into our own lives, we automatically will want to help others. How I always think about this in Ramadan, like, people are rushing to help people and do this or do this. But again, it's that whole thing around it. What the other 11 months of the year. Same with like access and inclusion. It's okay to do it that one-off, but can we instill that into the rest of our year as well? And then in terms of the other element that you spoke about, the second question, if you don't mind repeating that, is that okay?
Was that the one regarding stigma?
Stigma.
Yeah.
Again, stigma. I do believe that there is movement, there is change coming, but I still think that we're really, really, really behind. Like, as a society in general, and as a world, just in general, about opening these conversations about what people with a disability can actually achieve. Because I always come back and think about this. It's that whole concept of you can't be what you can't see. And on the TV, how many news presenters do we see that have a condition or a challenge, or how many TV presenters, or how many, movie stars or sports stars? I always go back to the Paralympic Games every 4 years. I did like a study as part of my masters, and it looks at how many times disability was searched in Google, and it went like this. So it goes flat, and this is over a number of years. So it goes flat, peaks, and then drops. Goes flat, spike, and then drop. Flat, spike, and then drop. And the only time of the year, or even in years, even in months, is when people talk about the Paralympics. And then they don't care for another 3.5 years, and then again Paralympics comes on, people are seeing it. But if we can do more around that, again, there is amazing work being done. How can we make sure that we can change that stigma? And especially in the South Asian, I'm telling you, the Bajara culture has to change. But thanks for your question.
Just one quick one as well. I have to ask, how's the team doing? You probably get this question asked quite a few times, but how's the team succeeding, should I say?
Alhamdulillah, sometimes my mum will say, like, come on, like, the England football team, the England blind football team, at least you guys can't see, you've got an excuse. I'm like, Mum, it doesn't matter. Like, I know we can't see, but we still got to achieve, we still got to make things happen. We're in the Paralympic cycle, so unfortunately we just missed out on Paris 2024, but the cycle has started again, so we're in preparation for the next Olympic Games, which is Los Angeles 2028. The team is roughly 12th in the world, so there's still kind of a lot we can do. We're still quite behind. Like, people don't, again, it's in our country, people are amazed that a disabled person can leave the house, let alone play elite level sport. So, you know, a lot of these sports are out there, but people don't even know that they exist. So our player pool is smaller. So that means that our international team is smaller in terms of recruitment, in terms of player pool. So unlike in South America, in India, like South Asia, these Chinese countries, in terms of, you know, China, Thailand, Japan, Argentina, Brazil, even Iran, like these countries, because of the population, because of the level of healthcare isn't as good, and because the opportunities are more, like I said, limited in terms of what person can achieve, their teams are better because they've got bigger player pools. So hopefully, like I said, we can kind of keep working towards it, and I really want to be a big part of that journey to try and see, you know, to say that, you know, someone from Rochdale who's a Muslim, who's South Asian, who's visually impaired, helped their country to get to represent an Olympic Games would be, you know, amazing.
Assalamualaikum, Azeem. Hope you're doing well. Firstly, I just want to say big, huge initiative for using your platform to, you know, educate the community in terms of, you know, offering a helping hand. So my question would be, as a person from the disabled community who's born and bred Rochdale, how do you feel that mosques or committees around Greater Manchester can further support people with disabilities in terms of, you know, mosque, Islamic education and accessibility?
Firstly, thanks for your question, and I think, you know, from conversations that we've had previously, a big part is education. You know, like I said, I thought I should have spoken a bit more in Urdu, but, you know, in terms of जो हम बच्चों को सिखाते हैं, हम सिखाते हैं कि, you know, कुरान पाक के बारे में, then we have, you know, things alongside that in terms of, you know, very like on the Muslim, in terms of, you know, we teach them all these different elements, but part of them conversations we should speak about topics like this from a young age, to say that actually gratitude should be taught within like a Islamic syllabus. And you know, it might well be something that I actually don't know, but when we work with schools, we always say this, that tomorrow these young people will become tomorrow's teachers, doctors, lawyers, politicians, accountants. So we have to ensure we're trying to educate them for tomorrow's society, for when they're in them positions and they can make, you know, they become a politician, they can make statutes and change. They become a lawyer, they can ensure that they advocate for the rights of people with disabilities. But these people from the younger generation, you know, that attend Arabic class, they attend, you know, Hafiz, whatever they decide to become, you know, for us to speak to them, to say, because they will become tomorrow's imams, they will become tomorrow's members of, you know, the council of mosques, you know, the council of, you know, in terms of the masjid, the communities in the masjids. It's for them to then know that actually I need to make sure that, you know, as my you know, if they become kind of whatever role that they have within the committee within these mosques, that have we ensured that what is our policy, what is our inclusivity policy? You know, this is something that I'm really, really passionate about. I know we've spoken about it before. Okay, you go into a takeaway, or you go into a restaurant, the first thing you see is our food is cleanliness score, or our hygiene certificate. You know, why isn't it within society that we have an inclusivity certificate? And we should bring that 100% as part of that into the mosques, because it doesn't matter how big or how small. There's still, every mosque should be accessible. That should be a priority. It should be a priority that we ensure that, you know, everybody can get into this mosque regardless of language, frailty, elders, youngsters, people in a wheelchair, people who can't hear. Even on the way here, I had this conversation with Colleen, who picked me up, and I was speaking and said, make sure that your, you know, the side gates open for people in a wheelchair. And then it just dawned on me, I just thought, imagine if you have a hearing impairment and you come to a mosque. Have we ensured that all our mosques have hearing loops? So for those who don't know what a hearing loop is, I say it's like a transmitter. So you'll wear a lanyard and it has a transmitter. And for someone with a hearing aid, because the technology is good now, it will Bluetooth connect. Have we ensured that all our mosques have a hearing loop and a transmitter? I bet we haven't. So when they come to the mosque, how are they accessing namaz? You know, and again, all these conversations that haven't been had before, but we need to make sure that we have them to ensure that everybody can come. So yeah.
Any other question from the men's side? I'll have a quick look, see if there's any question from the women's side. No question from that. Just one question from myself. Has your disability ever given you doubt in your religion, and if it did, how did you overcome that?
That's a really powerful question that that Khalim asks. And again, we have a very good friendship. That he said to me, if I was to ask you a question like this before, and he said would it be okay? So 100%, absolutely. So the question around doubt. I'd guess that in all our lives, especially within our Imam, in terms of, you have that doubt that creeps in tough times in particular, or in hardship, where you think to yourself it's that thing, people always remember God during tough times, or their Imam or their faith during tough times, but forget during the good times. Because that's something that I really tried to instill into my life, that, even when times get difficult, to not only just remember my faith during them times, but to remember it during success as well. Because it's a really, really important thing. But alhamdulillah, I'd say my mindset towards just life in general, when you have that much faith and that much, and again, I'm still nowhere near perfect. I'm still 100% working on becoming the best version of a Muslim that I can be myself. But when you have that faith and know that everything happens for a reason, that I reiterate that to myself every single day, that it's already written. It's already written. We've had these conversations so many times. It's already written. So we've just got to make sure that as long as we put all our effort in and have that faith in above that, we're on that process, we're on that journey, that everything will be all right. And I think that's a big thing for me. But again, it is when that doubt or that little bit creases, that frustration, especially with the disability, because people, again, I speak about this a lot with our workshops, is people will experience life in a blindfold, or life when you can't hear, or life in a wheelchair. Then they'll go home, back to their normal lives. They'll take the blindfold off. But it's really important, I always say this, to remember that blindfold is on for us all the time. That wheelchair, we can't just get up and get out of it. The ear defenders are on all the time. It's something that we can't take off. We can't just say, I don't feel like it today. I don't fancy being visually impaired. I don't fancy, struggling with my hearing. Or I don't fancy struggling with my learning challenge. I'm going to flick a switch and I don't fancy it today. We can't do that. It's something that we have got to live with every single day. So I think, again, once you, and it's usually the smaller things. It's the smaller things that are the ones that are the biggest challenges. The first thing people said to me is, you can't see, does that not, that means you can't drive. I'm telling you, driving is the last thing on my list at the minute. It's the last one I could say. I'm very fortunate. I've got people that help and support me. We get cars through work, cars through football. I enjoy that. We call it the passenger princess life. That's fine. But waking up in the morning and trying to squeeze a toothpaste onto a toothbrush, that's a challenge. That's a challenge, because when my mum finds loads of toothpaste in the sink, So again, but people don't think about that, because that is a challenge. So again, thinking of little ways that you have to overcome the little things, which are actually, they're the ones that mean the most. So yeah. All started.
Jazakallah to Azeem for coming. Alhamdulillah, I hope this opens up everyone's eyes inshallah, we could get him back, maybe deliver an interactive session so we can all feel for a moment what it's like to live life in his shoes. So yeah, Jazakallah for attending everyone.